All right, so here is this 115 volt single phase motor that I have. There's the model number and information on the motor, as well as the wiring diagram. This is how it's wired right now for low voltage clockwise shaft rotation. Everything's wired in accordance with this diagram. We'll see here, P1 is going to the hot. Now I know this is some nasty looking wiring. I'm gonna redo it so it's not all electrical tape. This is just how I bought the motor, but the hot is going to P1. White, yellow, and black are going to line 2, which in this case is neutral. So here's our neutral going to white, yellow, and black from the motor. Blue and T1 are connected here. There's T1 and blue. And then P2, orange, and red are connected. Now, these capacitors are wired the way that it came from the factory. I replaced the capacitors, but I wired these new ones up the same way that I got the motor, and in the same fashion, and it's still having the same issue. As well as here's the centrifugal switch, which you can see here. We have this tan wire that goes to one side of one of the capacitors. You have this black wire, which goes to the other side of that capacitor and the other capacitor here. And then this yellow wire, which goes to the other side of the capacitor. Now, this is the way it was wired when I opened the motor, but I see that this tan wire and this black wire, which go to both sides of this one capacitor, are permanently connected together. If I run my multimeter across here, it's got continuity, but you can see that they are together. And then this yellow wire, when the centrifugal, it starts together with them, and then when the centrifugal switch goes, it opens and no longer has a connection. Now, there's no diagram here for how the capacitors are supposed to be wired, and that's what I'm curious if this is what's causing my issue. I tested continuity here at the over temperature protection, and I have continuity through all 3 ports, so that's not bad. But I don't know what the previous owner did with this motor, if he's been in this motor before and messed with this wiring either on the motor side or on the capacitor side. I think it's unlikely that the motor's been opened before. More than likely he might have messed with the capacitors, but what happens is, and I have a different video about this, is when you plug the motor in and turn it on, it'll get up to speed just fine, but as soon as it gets up to speed, it trips the breaker. This is supposed to draw, as you can see here, 14.2 amps at 115 volts, but even on a 20 amp breaker connected directly to the breaker, it trips the breaker. So something in here, and I think it has to do with once the centrifugal switch trips because it's up to speed, something's wired incorrectly. I'm not an electrician though, so any sort of help that you guys could give me on how to test. I have a multimeter and can run whatever tests I need to run, but I'm just not well versed with how AC electric motors are supposed to be wired. So any help would be appreciated. Thanks.